are back on the football show here, and I don't even know how to explain the circumstances that we find ourselves in at this very moment in time. I am sitting in a hand-me-down recliner, pulled off some street in HASBROUCK Heights on garbage night in 1997, and it's comfortable. We are in the man shed of HASBROUCK Heights head coach Nick Delcalzo. I am Corey Doviak, being joined, first of all, by my two partners here on the football show, Jimmy Avatable. Jimmy, how you doing, pal?
How you doing, Corey? Good.
Good. Brian Carr. Brian, what's up?
Great to be here. Great night.
We have Bear sitting in the background, providing water and cigars. And then we have the two guests. Well, we're actually the guests in this stead here. We have HASBROUCK Heights head coach Nick Delcalzo, now Bergen Catholic assistant coach Greg Toal. And we're just going to get started, have a conversation, and see where it goes from here. There will probably be a lot of editing by the time, from the time that this is recorded to the time you actually get to hear it. But I think I want to start off, first of all, Coach Delcalzo, thank you for inviting us here. This is a highlight for us.
This is great. You know, it's when I talk about shed, this is a shed. It's no, I got my paint cans, everything, got my TV here. Got air conditioning. What's better than this?
Just don't fall asleep smoking that cigar. That might be the end of the hunt for you, pal.
We are going to have a couple of pictures available here just to prove our existence that this really is a shed. I'm looking over. I see Weed Stop for Lawns, Crabgrass Killer.
Right.
And I see two of the greatest head coaches in the history of New Jersey high school football. Coach Toal, obviously, thanks for being here as well and doing this with us.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here with you guys, and of course my buddy Nick, who I've known forever, and we've been close friends for so many years, and hey, it's a love of each other. So we've been fortunate to have that kind of friendship and relationship, and so we've been to our kids' weddings, everything, going back to kids getting christened, crazy. You name it, we go back on it. We had the Delcalzo Toll Painting Company. That was very interesting.
We got a story about that.
Yeah, we got some stories to tell, but it's early yet, so I'm going to pass this back.
All right, so I am going to take this recorder. I am going to put it in the middle of this circle, and then we're just going to let the conversation flow from here. So, first of all, Coach Delcalzo, we've talked about it a few times that we've had you. You've been gracious enough to come on the show before, but this relationship is, forget football coaches, forget peers. This is best friends going back to when you had best friends for the first time.
Yeah, we started like in kindergarten. We went to Corpus Christi together, and our whole lives were from kindergarten till now is evolved into a.
His father was my first baseball coach, literally. The Boulevard Pork Store.
Boulevard Pork Store.
I tell you what, we were 8 years old. We won a championship.
That's right.
There was 10 teams in the league.
Who'd you beat in the final?
So there was.
Who knows?
Well,
also, I know we played for Boulevard
probably the
Pork
Lions
Store.
Club. Probably the Lions Club. That sounds good. Anyway, well, if not, we'll make it up. But anyway, there was 10 teams in the league. To me, I got all these trophies from the one trophy that I always save is the Boulevard Pork Store, because it was the first trophy. There was 10 teams in it. It wasn't one of these, let's give kids out the way it is today. Hey, there was 10 teams. You had to earn it. Yeah. But it was great. I still cherish that trophy, and that goes back to we were 8 years old.
Yeah, my father was the coach.
You fast forward from Boulevard Pork Store to where you guys are, where we are tonight. The legend in two different ways, too. A preeminent Group 1 coach, one of the best in the history of New Jersey high school football, and then a guy who changed the game here from bringing Jersey football onto a national stage and all of those other things. Do you guys talk about the divergence, but yet how you guys are so similar still?
Well, yeah. I think Greg taught me a lot in the aspect of being tough. He always brings the thing that out tough people and things like that. But I think we got a lot of this, and I think Greg will agree, from our high school coach. Yeah. We had a great opportunity. We played for a great guy, Pete Barbiera, and we learned a lot of things from him. He was stern, he was tough, but on the other, he was fair and he's compassionate. And as coaches, we're sometimes you think everybody's a hard ass or whatever it is, but we got compassion too. We came from, I have 1 of 9 children I grew up with, and he made us, I think, what we are today. I think.
Go ahead, Jimmy. Hey,
you mentioned growing up in HASBROUCK Heights, one of the legendary football towns, small towns in New Jersey. We were talking before we went on the air, Nick, that the first town to put lights up in the 40s. What was it like growing up in that type of atmosphere as a kid, with the looking forward to getting to the high school? I think, Greg, we used to sneak into the games, and maybe the games were maybe 50 cents back then.
We used to climb the fence. So 50 cents, you had an extra 50 cents where you could get a hot dog or something and a soda.
So he didn't pay to get anything back then, right?
He's still, like I said, he's got his community money.
We stuck in during the national anthem. That's when we knew we could stand when all the police officers would be standing at attention. That's when we made it getaway. But you know what, though? Back in the 60s, we saw Corso play. He was probably one of the best running backs that ever came through, and the tradition and everything back there. You wanted to be an aviator. It
was an event. Friday night football was an event.
It was an event.
Was it a thing in Texas yet, even? Or is this one of the first places in the country? I mean, does anybody know that?
I'm sure it was an event. Yeah, I'm sure.
Texas had to be an event. Well, don't forget now.
But now everybody plays Friday nights, and it's
but back
changed.
then nobody did. So what happens is everybody went to the games.
Yeah.
It's not like it is today. You got things to do. You talk to people. I remember I was talking to a guy from Bergenfield. I used to go to the Heights games on Friday nights. It was just something to do.
Yeah.
It's not like it is now. Kids have so much to do. There was nothing to do back then.
Right.
Either that, you rode the Boulevard, or you went to a football game. Back then the Catholic schools played on Sunday.
Right.
So you get a game Saturday, and then maybe go Sunday and watch a Catholic school team play. It was good.
Go ahead, Brian.
Why don't you talk about that team back in '69 where you guys, they say, probably one of the greatest teams ever, right? Greg, talk about that times.
There were a lot of great players on that team. Mike Finuzzi, Rich Manfredi, Barry Musto, myself. That was the backfield, and the guys up front were, we had a lot of good guys. Mario D'Agostino, Tommy Padula, Salinardi. There were a lot of good players that we had. John Mahalik, but there was so many good players, and we played together growing up the whole time. So it was special. It was special playing for your high school. A lot of pride, a lot of great feelings. I got nothing but great memories from HASBROUCK Heights, and the opportunities that we had. And no one was better than Coach LaBarbiera. He's probably the reason me and him are coaching and helping kids, because he always did that for us.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Yes, he was.
478 points in 9 games. Jimmy, your math?
Yeah.
How many is that?
53 points a game. That's not bad. But you want to know something? Everybody says he ran up the score, but I remember...
were they right?
No. We had a lot of sophomores
that can play.
That were scoring touchdowns and, things like that. So, people forget that, and now, you deal with it now. You got to make sure you don't want to run up anything on anybody. But we really had a good team, and we had good people underneath.
How many kids were in the HASBROUCK Heights program back then?
If I showed you a freshman picture, the freshman had to be 34 or 35 kids back then. I remember
in a school of how many, like a class of how many boys were in a class? Maybe
we had like 70 kids on varsity.
Probably maybe 70 on varsity. Back then, though, the enrollment was about 160 kids or something, 70 kids. But I remember the time there was a guy they were going to cut, a senior they were going to cut because. We had too many kids out there.
Yeah.
Now
it's only 99 numbers, right?
Now the numbers are down for everybody. I think that's another discussion.
We're going to get to that.
It's different because of that.
We're going to talk about modern day high school football too, but you want to continue? You got something else for them as far as old time stuff? Or
no, I'm good.
All right, so let's jump into that, because now there is an issue with numbers. There's a lot of people running around trying to figure out what's wrong with high school football. Coach Toal, I mean, you've seen it from all levels, starting from HASBROUCK HEIGHTS up to a national championship Don Bosco prep team. You're probably the best guy to ask. I mean, where does it go from here? What needs to be done, and what needs fixing, and how can it be fixed? You have ideas?
I think it starts at the basic level of the junior football programs. That's where it's got to be fixed. I see the biggest problem today is they got all these super teams and everything, and kids don't play for their town. We played for our town. It was the greatest experience of our lives. Your best friend was playing next to you at halfback, and your quarterback was a great friend, and this guy. We're all very tight and very close knit. It was a special time, but they got to fix that. The problem is, all-star team, all-star baloney. Get more kids involved. Let more kids experience the football. It's terrible. This elite become like an elitist thing. Elite, and it's not that good, to be honest with you. So for being so elite, they're not elite. But that's always.
Well, going back to what he was saying, I remember talking to Joe Stunn, who played for Pope Pius. I just thought his grandson was playing for Elmo Park, and we were talking, and he says his biggest mistake was he went to Pope Pius. He was a good player. He goes, I would love to come here, but when I went to Catholic school back then, I thought I was supposed to go to a Catholic school. Right. Otherwise he would have. Nobody told him, "Oh, you should come here."
Pretty much the deal back then.
Back then, that's what it was.
Went through.
Yeah. Me and you were unusual ones.
We were different. But
talk about then. Why don't we just talk about that? What are you doing, Nick, to help your program? Because you continue every year to be successful. What are you doing? You getting the junior programs up?
Our junior football program, I got Mike Collinary, the chief of police. Me and him are really good friends, and they run a great show down there. They win every year. But I think the problem is, everybody gets scared away from the concussions and everything else. And I think if you look at, I bet you there's more concussions in soccer. And nobody ever says anything like that. But
girls soccer.
Yeah. But what happens, the problem is now, it was good. When we started September 1 when I first started. That was it. Boom. Kids had a good summer. Kids worked out by themselves. Everything was all good. The guys took care of everything. Boom. But then September 1 you started. 3 weeks later you had your first game, and that's good. Now you
you were done on Thanksgiving.
You were done on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Well, you could even still do that and be done the week after Thanksgiving. It doesn't matter. But what happens now is we're starting the second week in August. The parents' vacations are all shot. If you're going away, you got to go away in July. You can't go on. We need you in August. Then now you're playing before the school year starts. Where you used to be able to get players, some of these fringe schools used to be able to get freshmen out first day of school. You just go in the hall. Now you're a month into the season before you can try to get anybody out. And I think the recruiting process like that is a lot more difficult. And that's one of the, I think, the main reasons we're trying to go to one champion. And is there a need to do that? Well,
that's a good question. Do you think, Coach?
No, there's no need to go to that.
My point about that is, if you do play down to one champion, so say, with the current setup, say the North Group 3 Bowl is Ramapo against Riverdale, right? So whoever wins that game is going to play. I don't even know who's on Group 3 in the South. But what's the bigger game? Is it Ramapo Riverdale, or is it is it the winner of Ramapo Riverdale against Paulsboro? Right? I mean, just to be able to say that you're a state champion, who cares? Who cares about the outcome of that game? I mean, really, you want to win?
Totally agree with you.
I think the problem is that, and they compare these to other states. There's 54 schools in Bergen County that play football.
That's right.
That's 54. Now you take the state, and we maybe have more schools that play football in Bergen County than some states have in the whole state.
No kidding.
The whole state, probably even double that.
Yep.
And the schools are all regionalized and everything else. It's a whole different animal. I don't forget, up Bergen County here, there's a lot of small schools because it's older communities. And I thought trying to go to one champion, it all sounds good, but
Coach, go ahead.
Well, with the numbers going down, the injuries. I mean, how do you add those extra 2 games? And with some you're fortunate enough you had 30.
Pat St. Pierre.
Oh, the kicking guru.
My kicking guru.
Some of these Group 1 schools have 25, 26 kids on a roster. How do you go those extra 2 weeks with injuries and stuff? It's amazing.
It's very difficult, and we were talking about, Coach Bear and I were talking about it too. Even in our level, you lose one player, that's 2 players.
Right.
Yeah.
And you don't have, backups and everything else, and you got to be ready to do that. Now, you're talking about teams that are lesser and lose a player, it's devastating, and it's difficult. I think we did an injustice by adding games. There's no need to add games. I think Charlie Voorhees with Seahawks is right. Lesser games, and build the sport that way. And I think what he's done with our conference is very good, because now you're playing meaningful games at the end where your sixth-place team are playing people that they have a chance to beat.
Exactly.
So keeping football alive. Exactly. I think that's a goal.
I think what's happening in the NJIC is actually the model to follow, because, like I said, that North Jersey champion, the NJIC games, the only problem we have with it is that we'd like to see them played back-to-back at the same site so everybody can watch the football games.
Put that semifinal as a doubleheader, maybe a 5 o'clock and at 8 o'clock, so you could really...
But if that's the biggest problem we have with it, it's a home run, because we're a bunch of yentas and we like to pick out everything that's wrong with it. But it could work in the Big North Conference. I think, Coach Toal, I'd be interested to get your take on this too. The North Jersey Super Football Conference with 100 teams in it. It was, I think, the idea of it. I certainly understand what they were trying to do. If we have 100 teams, we have a lot of versatility. We could put teams that are struggling with teams that are struggling. To me, it's gotten very unruly. Yep. And do you like this setup? I think going back to...
You want to be honest?
Yes, honest.
You put apples with apples, oranges with oranges. The Catholic schools should be playing each other. Right. Okay, we should not be playing public schools. Mm-hmm. And it's just the way it is. I mean, with two different animals.
Yeah. And when, you're the... I don't want to say godfather, because that might imply that you're old, but you don't look old to me. You're sitting directly across from me. But when you started this at Bosco, what was it? 2000 was, I remember I covered a game against that Bergen Catholic game, great one, when you had Steve Levy and Ryan Grant, your backfield, and a bunch of other studs running around the field. Did you have, was there, I'm going to take this here, or did it kind of take off and you just kind of rode with it? Do you know what I mean? Was there?
It kind of took off. We had no idea. We had no idea that we'd be playing for national championships or anything like that. That's not where it started. But as we had, the more success we had, it started going, hey, why don't we give it a shot? Why don't we play one of these other teams? It'd be cool to play a team from California or Alabama or, Florida. So it was... But it didn't start off with the intent that we were going to conquer the world, or that we were going to. But as time grew, it was pretty crazy. We played pretty good football here, So it was, but it happened more by accident than, As I said, we didn't plan to take over the world, But the way things worked out, we had 2 national championships. And, I was very proud of those.
Well, Craig, that's because what you've done. If you look when you took over, I remember you coming down, and you were the head coach at Saddlebrook. You had about 15 kids, right, to start, and you had to go and beat the bushes. And I remember you had the quarterback Liberty. I remember this was Liberty Street and everything. But you took a team, you got beat up by Beckton in a scrimmage, and then you beat them in the playoffs, and then you lost a heartbreaker to Emerson when Carpenter took a big punt, went 80 yards for a touchdown.
That was a great football team. That Emerson
team with Papadonasius and Carpenter and whatever year that was. But anyway,
went to Stanford on that team.
Yeah, he went to Stanford. Yeah,
Papadonasius.
Yeah,
and then 1982, 83.
Yeah.
He was coaching.
And then Greg, you go to Riverdale and you do a great job over there, and then you go from Riverdale to Hackensack and. Those are the things.
Some stats for you there. Riverdale, 2 state championships in 6 years. Hackensack, 5 state championships in 6 years. And then we go obviously up to Bosco, where 9 total up there, 6 straight championships. 6, 2006 to 2011, and then with 2 2 national championships.
This is your life, Greg.
And then also right now, right, number 1 team in New Jersey at Bergen Catholic, not the head coach, defensive coach.
Yeah.
And then this year again, right now, number 1 team in the state.
Yeah.
So pretty good effort. Huh?
Hey, good things.
Yeah, how do you explain that?
A lot of good players and and a lot of great coaches.
I think
you work with.
I think the common denominator when I look at the program as both of you as head coaches is you understand the value of a great staff. And Nick, on your staff's been with you a long time.
A long time. I tell you, I've gotten, for example, here, Adam Vieira, Adam the Bear. I got him from Greg.
Yep.
Greg goes, hey, this guy, I met him up in his camp. And he goes, hey, this guy's a great guy. So I tried to get him a teaching job, and it ended up, it worked out good. Worked out very good.
Yeah, you got the teaching.
You got the teaching.
Well, the one thing
he owes me, right?
Wait. Why don't we have Bear say something?
He still hasn't bought us a drink yet. We're still waiting for a beer. We gave him a whole life.
He owes us. Hey, not only that, he got his wife is from Heights.
Yeah,
Bama Heights girl.
great basketball player.
Very good. 1,000-point scorer.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Bear, talk about the 2 coaches. You coached under Coach Toal, Coach Delcalzo.
Well,
What's it like?
Let me tell you something. It's very similar, but I'll explain the differences later. But they, I couldn't be more thankful to these 2 guys. Started with Coach Toal back in 2006-07 when Bosco started to heat up for those years, and I was a kid at the time. I was 21, 22. I learned a lot over there over the years, and what a great experience that was, traveling the country. And again, I was fortunate enough where usually when you start your career, you don't start at the top. You kind of have to start on the bottom and work your way to the top.
Usually a park.
Yeah, so I got to it was just a great experience over the years, and Coach Toal got me a teaching job there, and a time where I didn't know where I wanted to be, and I had a business degree, and I said, this coaching thing is great. This is what I want to do. I want to teach, coach, and I was fortunate enough to meet him, and he kind of introduced me to Coach Delcalzo, and I got the teaching job over there, and that was it.
So what are the differences?
One's more tech savvy. I'd say Coach Delcalzo. But let me tell you something. They both take special teams very seriously, which is very important. So that's where special teams is kind of overlooked. These guys, they probably spend more time. I remember Coach Toal, going over pump blocks, for hours, bringing the guys back till 7 o'clock at night, working on pump blocking. That's a game changer. You don't look at it at that point, but kind of like just line up and let's return it, or send 8 and just take a shot. But Coach Toal took that important. I saw games over the course of those years where we blocked the punt, and and it was a game changer. And Coach Delcalzo was the same way. He's more of an extra point guy. He's all over the kicker, as you can see. Coach St. Pierre's on the phone with him. They're going back and forth. We got a pretty good kicker, Mac Weish, who he spends a lot of time. Coach St. Pierre spends a lot of time with him, and over the course of the last couple of years, he's been with us. Those are things in football that a third of the game, and it really is a third of the game. So,
well, I think the one thing when people ask me about Adam there, the first thing I always tell him is he paid his dues. First of all, I remember him at Don Bosco. I remember him with freshmen. I remember him going with JV, doing whatever he can do. And then he went to Beckton, and then obviously with you. Talk about him doing that, him paying his dues compared to some younger coaches today that want to be a head coach at 23, 24 years old and not necessarily paying their dues, so to speak.
That's how it is all over. I remember when I taught for 40 years. I was a vice principal the last 5 years, whatever, and people wanted my job with my salary. I go, wait a minute. I did this for 40 years. I made peanuts. Real quick before I get to that, hey, Greg and I, we painted houses in the summer. We painted in the winter every day, whenever we had a free time.
Was it Toal, Delcalzo?
No, it was Delcalzo Toal.
You had to get that in.
It was Delcalzo Toal painting.
Alphabetic. That's an alphabetic.
Hey, one of our first, ready? And one of our first houses we painted was who? Tony Carson. in Hackensack.
Wow.
Tony was one of our first clients.
Wow.
And Tony was great. He was trying to get us down with the price. So he says, "What if you don't paint the back half of the house?
Nobody sees it anyway.
Nobody's going to see it. I'm selling it anyway." So we painted his house, and we went back 3 years later. The bottom half of the house is still not painted.
Well, he wasn't getting the sausage and peppers money at St. Joe's at that point. So
but
Talking about paying dues for a young guy, and you can use Bear as the specific example.
Bear is good.
There's others too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of. Let me just say this: the only thing with Bear, when he talks about tech savvy, I'm fairly good. I'm not good.
Well, you've got an iPhone. Coach Toal's got a flip phone.
Yeah, Greg's bad when he does. Because I called Greg up today, and he wanted to know who's this.
Right? Can you get a picture of the
Greg.
coach's phone?
Are you kidding me?
I called him today.
Come
He
on.
does who this
Flip
is.
phones is retired.
Yeah. Oh boy,
He's got it.
He's got it.
He's ready.
Yeah.
He's ready.
He's got all his apps.
He
on
needs a
there.
bigger phone, six big fingers.
Hey, Bear's the only guy. He'll FaceTime me 4 times a day. He's the only guy to
FaceTime.
FaceTime. Oh my God, it drives me nuts.
But it brings up the bigger picture. I mean, Bear has gone through the ranks. It's so much harder now to. Well, I shouldn't say that. I've never been a head coach. It seems to me from the outside looking in that it's so much harder because you have an iPhone and somebody can FaceTime you and email you and tweet you, parents, administrators. There's direct access. There used to be a little bit of a firewall between the coach.
Yeah, there's no firewall now.
And I don't know. People say it all the time, and I'm interested to see how it's going to turn out down the road here. But how many times do you hear you're not going to see guys coach in 20 years anymore?
You don't.
Do you guys feel that way?
Well, I was an assistant coach for 10 years before I got the opportunity. But
And DJ Nymphius brought up the same thing too. Remember, he goes, "Everybody wants my headphones."
yeah.
I was, I've been there for 10 years, and then finally got an opportunity to get the job. I remember my superintendent saying, "You sure you want this job?" Every board meeting, they're nuts. They're crazy. That's all they talk about is football. But it was something that it was the burning desire I always wanted to do at one time. When I started, hey, you talk about Greg and I used to paint houses all the time. I coached 3 sports. I was the head girls basketball coach. I was coaching football. I was the head girls softball coach for 27 years. So it was all you had to hustle.
Yeah, you had to hustle.
We had to hustle to get jobs.
Coach,
Bear's got something. Bear's got something.
So the best thing I ever did, and really, this is a point you don't see this much often with all this technology stuff. But the best thing I did was, when I was with the freshman with Greg, he had me go film. Nowadays you don't need that. You have that huddle stuff. Go film. Go film a Ridgewood varsity game. Go down to. I think I went down. He made me go down to Philadelphia one time, which I had no problem. But you know what? Went down to Philadelphia. It was a great football game. It was what was it? Larry Fitzgerald played there. Valley Forge.
Military.
Played I forget who we were playing. Maybe St. Joseph Prep or something. And it was a 3.5-hour drive. I got myself a cheesesteak. I was ready to go. And it was just, and you learn so much because you watch when you get back. You watch it. First of all, I'm fearing for my life. Hopefully, I didn't screw up and miss plays. This and that.
Yes.
But it made you a better football coach because you learned. That's how you learned.
Yeah. I didn't see a home game in 8 years.
A lot of people don't want to. A lot of people don't want to do this.
You're out
I was always scouting. Like any game out. If they played Friday night, I was out. Well, Saturday games, I was scouting. I never saw a Saturday game. I saw more about the Friday night because we were on Friday night, but that's what you did. You went out.
There's a lot of coaches, in this era that wouldn't want to do that.
But back then we didn't have a camera. I didn't have a camera. It was pad and paper.
Padded paper.
Right.
And you remember when you guys were playing, it was real. It was all real.
Real when I first
and
started.
then the big thing came out, VHS in the early '90s. Everybody was ecstatic about that.
You
now
can rewind
it's
with a button?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now obviously Huddle.
Huddle's
Everybody's using Huddle.
I remember, right, Greg? You go. Let's say I'm playing Bob Valley at Cresskill. I'd have to meet him every year. Meet him at the fireplace.
Yep.
We're in a parking lot, exchanging film. Pump the lakes. I'm meeting on the diner over here. It's like you're doing illegal things. Okay, here's your film.
Yeah.
Now you're always worried about everybody getting an advantage. Everybody has everything on everybody.
Coach, you're now on the staff at Burden Catholic. Is it a different mindset? I mean, it's still coaching kids, so it's the same thing, but stepping down from Don Bosco when Darren Cooper was chasing you around the street trying to get the real story and all that type of stuff. From the way it ended there, was there any leftover acrimony, or did you whatever you want to say about the situation leading you up to where you are now at Bergen Catholic and a state championship?
I tell you what, I couldn't be happier at Bergen Catholic. It's life takes different changes for you. I really can't talk about the situation because of litigation and all, but hey, you know what, I'm very happy the way everything worked out, and hey, I'm enjoying every minute. Hey, kids are kids. That's what you're in this for. We got in. That's what you keep reminding yourself. Hey, why did I get involved in this? I got involved because I wanted to coach kids. I wanted to teach kids. And that was our life, and that's what we did, and we didn't look at it any other way. We were not looking for
we weren't looking for money or anything. We didn't do it for money.
No, we didn't. We definitely didn't do it for money.
Our vacation times, we used to go down to Wildwood Clinic.
Yeah.
Down in Wildwood. Pete LaBarbiere and his family. Greg took his family. I took my family, and Greg and I both took our mother-in-law so they could babysit.
It's true. That's right. That's right.
But you saw everything that Coach Toal has done. Taking the steps up to, leading up to where. And was there ever a thought for you, like, you know what, maybe I want to take my show on a road here? And
Never. Like everybody, like Greg says, you're never going to move out of HASBROUCK Heights. I just. The community is like, it really hasn't changed much, and it's really good. Where you see the guy that came over the house, you guys met him, DiPiazza. They're nuts.
You want to do the cigars in the door?
No, he's the guy we met out front. Okay. We were out front, and he's talking about Mike Fanuzzi and everything, which we can give Mike a call. I'd like to, when we get a chance. Mm-hmm. And we can talk to him on the phone, but what happens is I forgot what I was doing. See, that's what
I asked. I asked if you ever had the notion to.
No, I really didn't. I have the love for the town and everything else, and I enjoy being here, coaching kids. And when I first started, it was very difficult. Young guy, and they call your house and everything. And I pretty much get out of that now.
Right.
But also, you have your son is on the staff too, right, Kevin?
Well, he helps me out. My son helps me out. And probably the toughest things I had was coaching my sons. I have my oldest son who's like 35, I think, now. And if anybody, I remember somebody was complaining about his kid not playing. I go, listen, I didn't start my own son. My son, who's a senior, did not start. He was a backup player. And why didn't he start? Because he wasn't good enough. And he'd be the first to tell you that. Right. My other son was getting neglected a little bit until my staff says, wait, this kid belongs on the field. We got to get him out on the field. So those are the things you run through when you coach your own kids. It's everybody thinks you're doing it, for a reason, but I didn't get into coaching to coach my kids. I just happened to be there.
Yeah, and Coach, you coached your son too.
My three sons.
Three sons, right? And Rampo
and Hackensack.
Rampo, Hackensack, and Bosco.
Coldest game I ever was at. Ramapo against Hoboken.
I was there.
With Tyrell Dortch, right, was on the Hoboken running back.
Yeah.
The freezing, and your son was a part of that game with Chris Sims too.
That was an amazing game. It
Yeah.
really was. Two great teams that really played. That was two great public school teams going at it, and that was a classic. I was still, I think, up until it still may be the most watched game ever on MSG, that they've ever had. So that was a big game. Kids played so hard. I had so much fun. I took 2 years off to be with my son. I took 2 years off. I was at Hackensack at the time, and I said, hey, listen, I want to go see my son play, and then Mike said, well, why don't you come coach? I said, all right, well, that's good too. So, I went over there, we coached, and we had a great run. Two really good years. And then then the Don Bosco thing came up, and, I took a shot at it, so that was, but me and him been blessed in a lot of ways. We've had great kids, and it's been a lot of fun. Coaching your own kids.
That was my next question.
Coaching your own kid. You know what? I never tried to. I never tried. I didn't want to drive my kids crazy. You know, I always realized that, hey, listen, you know, they're kids. They're still, you can't make that thing and get on them all the time, and you go home and you still got to be on them. I kind of separated it.
Yeah, Mike, you there?
You know?
So, all right, now, through the wonders of technology, we are being joined on the... we really should be videotaping this. I mean, you know, we're sitting here talking high-tech, low-tech, everything else. We have a recorder. We have an iPhone. We have cheese and crackers and a backup iPhone doing the recording here. So this is low-tech meets high-tech, and we are joined on the phone by Mike Finuzzi, a member of the 1969 team, played with Coach Delcalzo, played with Coach Toal, went on to the University of Kentucky. So, Mike, hey, thanks for joining us here in this crazy circumstance.
Yeah, nice to be here.
So, first of all, give us your best. You got two stories for us, one on Coach Toal, one on Coach Delcalzo.
No.
Please, don't hold back. We can edit it later.
I'm not sure if I'm able to tell you some of those stories. Well, where do I start? We had I can't tell the one down the shore, Nicky.
No.
Most of these I probably wouldn't be able to tell. But Greg, you know, Greg was, I guess, breaking in he was a junior, and Greg hit the hole really fast, you know, as a fullback, and he came in in a scrimmage. I remember a scrimmage we had against Englewood, and we were a little sluggish. We came out slow. It was after school, and we were real sluggish, and a fight broke out on the second play. Another fight broke out on the third play, and we just said, I just got in the huddle and said, guys, we're going to run a dive right, and a fullback dive left, and a fullback dive right. And Greg just, you know, we pounded on people, gave everybody a chance to beat them up, and you know, Greg was extremely quick off the ball, and you know, hit the holes, and you know, there's a lot of other stories, but I can't tell too many of them. Yeah. When Nick, you know, Nicky came in as a freshman. He was a star running back, a tailback, and then Greg, they switched positions a little bit, and then Greg became the tailback. But that was they were 1 year behind me in school, so it was a lot of fun.
And then you went on to the University of Kentucky. And where do you live now?
I live in San Antonio, Texas.
Okay. So you went to the Kentucky-Texas A&M game this week. I mean, I don't know how your Kentucky teams did while you were there, but you got to be pretty proud of what's going on in that program right now. I mean, only time at Texas A&M.
They started off great. They're 5-0, and they beat 3 Southeastern Conference teams. So yeah, they're doing. Stoops is doing a great job recruiting. We're always able to compete with everybody, but the depth, in the Southeastern Conference is always really strong. Even if we were ranked 15th in the country in recruiting, we'd have 5 or 6 teams that are ranked in the top 10 in recruiting. So it was tough. We played against Greg's team. As a matter of fact, we opened up against Virginia Tech my senior year. Yeah, against Greg, and that was a fun story.
Mike, down in Kentucky. Remember we went and visited you? Was that when? Remember we found you guys in the out in the woods and in the hotel, and we picked up these girls and everything.
Remember, I will edit.
Hey, and we're going all around, and we went into your room, and the guy goes to you. Your roommate goes, "Hey, Mike, these kids aren't allowed to be here. You're going to get in trouble." I go, so Beef goes, "Hey, we're your friends." Remember that?
No, that's a great story. It was a second string quarterback, and we're rooming together, and little by little against Virginia Tech, and little by little half of New Jersey, half of HASBROUCH Heights was down, and before long there was about 15 guys in the room making a lot of noise. The night before the game, and so the second string quarterback says, "Hey guys, come on in, party, make noise, do whatever you want. I'll start tomorrow." And that's when John Halpin, he looked at me, and it was like a pin could drop. He says, "That's what you think. If a coach comes in here, we're all your buddies." And it was like they were serious. It was like the New Jersey deal. Like all of a sudden it got quiet.
Well, if you need any Bergen Catholic guys down in Kentucky in the modern day, I know a guy. He could maybe steer some in your direction there. You need some depth on the line. Some big boys over there in Oradell, right, Coach?
Sure. Well, of course, the New Jersey football is taking big strides all over the country. I mean, for years, we sent guys from New Jersey all over the country, and they started trying to recruit them locally. But there's always been a good string of high school football, out of New Jersey. Now they're going between Bosco and Bergen Catholic. Greg started all that going all over the country and traveling out of state and competing. So it's been really good for New Jersey football. Now, of course, the Texas football is real strong down here too. High school football. It's a whole culture in itself. So it's good. I'd like to see some of the teams from up there come down and play some of the teams from Texas.
You got something? Yeah. Go
ahead. Mike came up and saw us play last year. He came up for our state championship game. Hey, Mike, tell us a little about when you we were talking about Pete LaBarbiere before, and the team you had back then that you led.
Well, LaBarbiere, of course, he came in as a new coach, and he didn't take any guff. He said, in fact, the first year he suspended like 13 guys on a team in front of an important game. But coming back for the Heights last year, I came back for Greg's championship game, state championship game, Bergen Catholic, and then Nicky's game with HASBROUCK Heights. One thing about the Heights tradition is, we expect to win, and I think the kids work hard, and it was a lot of fun coming back up there and seeing both those games the same weekend, and seeing Greg do well and seeing Nicky do well. That was really a lot of fun. I try to get up there whenever I can, but our old team was I guess we had a lot of talented kids, but I guess the most important thing that we had, we loved each other, we worked hard, and we had the will to win. I mean, there was a couple of guys that had such a strong will to win, and I think that's what gets us over the edge, and that's tradition built in. And I think Nick's team looks like they still have it. They won 2 state championships in a row, so it's pretty awesome. But to play on that team with Nick and Greg and some of the other fellows that we had, Manfredi and Musto and Mario, McKenna. It was a lot of fun. We were lucky that nobody got hurt the whole season. Nobody got hurt. That doesn't usually happen, and I think we could hold our own against anybody. I'm not sure if we had a schedule playing against 4 and 5A schools if we could hold up, but I think we could hold our own with any one game with just about anybody.
Texas 4 or 5A. That's right. You bring great to the Tech. Well, thanks for joining us here. It was great to meet you, even if it was just over the phone. And if you do make your way back up here, you might be, booking 2 more state champions. We'll get you. First of all, we'll get you some tickets, and second of all, we'd love to meet you in person and break out the recorder again. When they're not listening, you can give us what really happened around the Boulevard Pork Store in 1970 in HASBROUCK Heights, New Jersey.
You'll enjoy those stories. You'll enjoy those stories a lot more. I think I could have told you one that was pretty easy, but
we'll save it and we'll hit it next time. But thanks again, and nice to meet you.
Hey. Nice to meet you. Good luck, man. Good luck. See you guys. Good talking to you.
All right, so that was Mike Fanuzzi from All Parts South there in San Antonio, Texas. Another walk down memory lane here. Cool stuff. I mean, we're sitting in this. I'm taking this all in. It's been a great night so far, and let's fast forward, go back, move ahead now, and see where we are. Bri, you got a question about current day high school sports in North Jersey?
What I was just going to talk to Coach about is, we talked before about junior football. You guys seem every year at Heights been able to get kids new quarterback every year. It seems to be, James Klink, Frankie Quattrone, new guy this year. Every year is a new guy. How do you do it?
Well, I think our junior football program does a great job. They're starting to run a lot of stuff that we have. Mm-hmm. And, you talk about guys being on your staff. We talked about staff. I have Adam. But then Frank D'Amico played for me in '98, lost that heartbreaker to Glen Rock. Mm-hmm. So with Scotty Stevens, he's been on my staff for a while. He's like assistant head coach to me. He took over my job as vice principal. And when he took over the job, I says, Frankie, you sure you want this job? This job's going to kill you. You know? But Frankie, then I have Rocky Minicello. Rocky played for me back, I think, 86, 87, around there. He's been my defense coordinator for the longest time. I got my 2 freshman coaches who played for me, Darren Iorato and Dimitri Ford, who are doing an outstanding job with our freshmen. Keep the kids I always say, hey, I need 12 kids out of there. Keep 12, 13 kids happy. Right. Make sure they all play, make sure they all have a good time. And I have Dominic D'Amico, who also played for me, and Sean Mansfield was on my staff. And Pat Campen, whose son plays as a freshman, who's from Hudson County guy, who was at Weehawk and everything. He played. And one other guy who's a cop on my team, was a cop, Corey Lang. Now, Corey, real quick story about Corey Lang. Corey Lang, one day, here's what he does. He rings my doorbell at 12 o'clock at night and tell me this kid has nowhere to go. This kid, Wixon. I'll call his last name Wixon. He was in my son's class. So I take him in, and he ends up staying with me for about 5 years. Okay, his senior year. So
Father
then I had
Flanagan. Trust me, he's got the heart of gold. He is Father Flanagan.
So I ended up having to throw him out of the house after one time, and then he joined the army. He was in Germany, and he'd call me every Sunday from Germany. But it was funny. Corey was. We went to watch the film De La Salle, and we're sitting in the movie theater. We took our kids, all the team there, and Corey's in front of me, and the guy was telling the guy he brought the kid to live in his house for a while. So I go, Corey, the kid you brought over my house is still living there after 5 years. I go, but Corey Lang is our, ex-cop who's on disability, got hurt really bad in an accident. So he helps us out. So we got a really good staff. You know what? The Heights people, if you go to a Heights football game, we get a good crowd for Group 1. I'm going to tell you come here and everybody support. The town is all behind you and everything else.
What about the 2 guys, right? The mayor. Doesn't the mayor walk? Is that the guy? The mayor that walks?
No.
The councilman.
The councilman.
He walks to the game.
Yeah, him and Salerno walked to the game
They
up
went
to
to
Butler.
from here this year.
Yeah, they're going to be on Channel 2, I think they're talking about it. And he comes to me, gives me a cigar every game.
Right.
And then then he goes and walks, and his son played for me, Kisser.
Bobby.
Bobby Kisser was a hell of a football player, a great football player. And Salerno's 2 sons play for me, great football players. But they're diehards. There's a lot of diehards here. The police chief is the junior football coach. His son coaches the junior football. Kistner coaches junior football. There's a lot of people that want to give back, and I think that's important.
I think if you look, and we talk about this all the time on the show, the continuity, and you look at the teams that are fighting for Giant Stadium every year, Ramapo, Niello to Drew Gibbs, consistency there. DJ Nymphius at Riverdale, Brian Donald at the Pan. I think Billy Wild is doing a great job in New Milford.
Right.
We talked to him about he runs his program. They're big on social media and doing all those kind of things. It doesn't happen by accident. There's no shortcuts to being a year in, year out winning program. I mean, Coach, you could speak to that.
No question about that. You see the guys that are willing to work and put the time in. There's no easy formula.
Well, Greg, Billy coached with you at Hackensack, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
Billy always says, we ask him, we talk to him, he's got to recruit his own kids.
Yeah.
Always. He's got to get his kids in his school on the team.
No doubt.
Keep them from going somewhere else.
We got to go to junior football games.
Right.
Like Bear goes to junior football games, or Frankie, or I'll go down here. Make sure the kids see us and see them.
Yeah, I've had the experience of being at public school.
Sure.
3 different public schools or whatever. Yeah. So it was a great experience. So that was something I really enjoyed that experience.
Well, that leads into my next question for you. Do you think this is the last stop, Bergen Catholic, or could you ever see a time where something open up that piques your interest?
I never say never. So you know what? If something piques my interest, yeah. But I love what I do right now. I'm enjoying the heck out of this. This has been a lot of fun, and I've always came with the attitude, if I can't wait to get to practice, good things are going to happen. And, it's the same thing with kids. If kids can't wait to get to practice, they're going to be successful. So I look forward to every day. That's the best part of my day, is when I get to practice.
I know a guy at Pal Park. I mean, if something opens up,
they can use a good coach over there.
Hey, one never knows, right? One never knows.
I don't know. Any other questions? I'm good. Bri?
Oh, hey, I would say one thing. You talk about Germany, and Nick and I have a connection that
cool too.
His brother Robert and I were in the Army together in Germany. And so that's why I knew Nick, but never really went up to Nick. Hey, Nick, I know your brother. And
it was like a couple years ago.
I waited a few years before I went up, and I say, Nick, your brother and I were in the Army together. And so it's a small world that we were always connected. This is 1978, so whatever that is, 40 years ago that your brother and I were in the service together. And
World War
so I was always, that was the big one. But anyway, it was just,
you guys were in Germany, right? Together?
In Germany, in the same unit. In the same building and dorm, in the same barracks and stuff.
How that.
And I lived in Montvale. My father worked for A&P, and we ended up being in Montvale, and so that's where I was settled, here. But it was just a small world that and here I am today, 40 years later, connected
in a shed
with his brother. A
lot of connections in his shed.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right, listen. This is
you guys, go way in. You go even further back. The two of you guys.
Yeah, I mean, this is Jimmy. I mean, your thoughts on the evening? Crazy, right?
It's always fun to talk football, obviously, and 560 plus wins combined. I mean, that's not that bad.
But I noticed that Coach Delcalzo, he gets the throne. It's
why? So you got
the king of his castle. Hey, this is his castle.
I'm here because let me just say this.
Again, I reiterate, this really is a shed.
Yeah, this is a real shed.
Yes.
I'll be married 40 years. In fact, I got married in between the basketball season and football season. I got in between the two back then, and this is how we stay happily married. She watches her Hallmark channels, and I watch my games out here. And I can't smoke in the house, so I smoke a cigar out here.
I hope these young kids are listening.
There is such a thing as a basement, Coach.
Why don't we talk about NGIC playoffs? Third year in a row.
Yeah.
Third year in a row in it. You've been in the championship game both years. What do you think of this whole playoff scenario? Corey talked about it before a little bit.
I think the playoff scenario is very good. I think what he put together there is good because you're playing meaningful games when you need to play. You know what I mean? You're playing good teams, and the second place team and the third place team are playing good teams and can catapult them into the playoffs. Those things are important. And then you also have the teams that you're trying to build up, like the fifth and sixth place teams. They're playing somebody that they have a little pride, they have a chance, they can beat, they can bond, they get success. We're trying to. I think what our league has done is tried to build up football. I mean. What's his name? The Sea Caucus says it all the time. Charlie Voorhees says it all the time. Hey, everything's against football. Whether it comes from injuries or head injuries and everything else, and we got to make it as safe as possible and get as many build the sport. But starting as early we are, I think we're hurting the sport. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of places, June 11th. I mean, where kids are going full speed, and going back to when we were in high school, it was show up 2 weeks before school, 1 week of doubles, 1 week of practice, start, and then bang, done on. Coach, I guess the question I have for you is where do we go from here? I mean, if you look forward, where do you see it?
I hope I look at my grandson. I says, what's where's he going to be at with this whole thing? Even though he's 2.5 now, whatever. But you want to make sure that number one, it's safe. Number two, that there's more and more kids stay involved. Right. Less and less kids. Unfortunately, football's taken a bad hit, and some of it we've done to ourselves there by making these elite teams. That's the biggest baloney in the world. Elite team. Everybody wants to tell my kid plays for an elite team. Come on, play. The best thing you could possibly do is play for your hometown.
Or grab a Nerf ball and run around
play in the neighborhood.
Play in the neighborhood. The kids you grew up with. Yeah, even if you had to wait to high school to start playing football. Yeah. Nothing wrong with that. I think it's great. So, hopefully we get this right. Hopefully, because right now football's not in the right direction. And hopefully there'll be some great leadership that will eventually put it in the right direction. Even if it's kids playing flag football and stuff up until 7th grade and maybe starting or first year. Yeah, I'm fine with the first year of high school. organized.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't think there's. It depends.
Because the skills you can teach, right?
Exactly.
Once they get on the field, you can teach them how to, fight the hands and do all those type of things. You want them to get there healthy and happy. Then that's the way colleges recruit too. They're not necessarily looking at, wow, this kid has great technique. They want the athlete, and they'll teach them the rest of the stuff. And you can do that on the high school level.
Yeah, you could take a lot of kids who play basketball, and they end up being pretty good football players.
Yeah, Mo Alley Cox, who played for Virginia Commonwealth in the NCAA tournament last year, is now a tight end on somebody's roster. I mean, as a rookie.
Exactly.
So, yeah,
Greg, that's your phone. Just hit the side.
One last thing.
Just hit the side.
One last thing, guys. The recruiting game has changed so much with the early offers, especially at the big boy level. How does that
early offers and also early recruiting periods now too? Early signing bonus.
Sound button. There you go.
Obviously, when you guys started coaching, if you were a great player, during your senior year, you would get your offer during the football season.
Yeah.
Now kids are getting offered as 8th graders, freshmen, the ridiculousness is that some of these kids we know aren't great football players. How hard is it to then coach a kid that's got 25 offers, coach, as a sophomore, where you say, hey, you're not that good right now. You got to do this. And he looks at you like, Coach, I have 25 offers already. How is that early offer in recruiting hurt coaching?
Well, it's probably an easier situation if there's a mother and father living at home. If it's not, okay, if it's a split family, that complicates things even more. There's a lot of challenges out there. There's no simple formula to anything, but how we put ourselves in this situation, I don't think we need all these all-star teams. I don't think we need that. I think we've kind of lost the spirit of playing for your hometown and the great experience that was. So hopefully we get back there. Hopefully there's getting more and more kids involved. Football's a great sport. It's changed so many people's lives, and now what are we going to do away with it? It's become an elitist game? Come on.
It's happened to other sports. I mean, it's starting to get that way in baseball, where you need a $200 bat, a $1,500 entry fee, $150 spikes. And, they're losing out great athletes because, it's socioeconomic. Some kids just can't afford to play.
That's right.
And that's a shame.
The days of Willie Mays and Hank Aaron may be long gone.
Stickball in Brooklyn is no longer.
Yeah, but you know what I think hurts a lot of these sports, too? They're like baseball's all year round now.
Right. Specialization.
They're all specialists. Right. And you talk about guys, you talk about recruiters in football. They want the guy that's playing basketball. They want the guy that's playing baseball. Every time the guy comes in and asks about a player, they go, what other sports does he play? Oh, he wrestles. Oh, that's good. Or he plays oh, that's good, or baseball. So they look for those things. They want kids to play 3 sports.
Playing kids that compete.
That's right.
Just compete.
Be in competitive situations.
You put the kid's a great basketball player. What do you think he's going to go on a football field and he's not going to compete?
Right.
I mean, just get kids that compete.
Yeah, get kids that compete. I think that's a good place to end it here tonight. I was just tweeting our, what a great night it's been for us, and I don't know how to say thank you. I mean, we've been talking about it for a couple of years. I'm glad we finally pulled it off, and I'm coming back next month.
Hey, all right. Hey, right. So what you expect
annually?
Did you expect the nostalgia in here?
Coach, you know what I'll take most out of this?
What's that?
That I turn to my left and I see a can that says "Weed Stop for Lawns."
Well, there you can see I don't have any weeds on my lawn. That's why.
Thanks for joining us on the football show. See you next week. Won't be this good though. I can guarantee you that.
Follow the leader.